So if your inventory accuracy is below target, then every reorder point, every min-max level, and every stockout decision is built on bad information. And so inventory accuracy is the trust score of your warehouse operations. And so without it, you're going to be managing off of assumptions. And so here I want to show you here on this data set, which I'm sure you've seen something like this, just a basic inventory data set. If you want this file, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. And you definitely should create something like this if you haven't already. I mean, you're going to want to make sure you have the inventory, because if you're short, then you'll see in other parts of the book or other videos, the cost of being short. Because whenever you're short something, you're not just short on, say, the value of, like, say for example, a copper fitting or a blower part is $52. But if you install it, you also have the labor cost, right? So you're short a lot more than just the cost, the value of what you can install it for. And so what we need to do, we have this data set, which is, date, location, what type of count it was, the system type, the part, and then also supplier. And then also what you have is your on hand and your count. And so you need, these are the main two columns you need. Obviously the date, and then these two. And if you also have a tolerance, then you could do that as well. Like if it's off by 1 or 2, then maybe it's not a huge deal. And so we need to calculate these 3 columns. We need to calculate the variance between count versus actual, or like, the system count versus the actual count. And then we need to have an accuracy flag. Was it accurate or was it not? And I also added this tolerance amount just to be more realistic. And so what we need to do is we need to subtract these two, but we need to take the absolute value, meaning if it's negative, we want it to be positive. So for example, if the system on hand is 270 and the physical count is 275, and we subtract 275 from 270, you're going to get -5, but we want that to show up as a 5, so the absolute value. And the way you do that, I'll show you here. So equals ABS, which is for absolute value, and then just subtract the 2, equals this minus this. And so you can see that it's sort of matching. Here you can see that you have some stockouts. But let me just make this for a second 135. And you see how it's still 1, even though it's flipped? It's because we're doing the absolute value. Okay, and then the accuracy is going to be the variance, if the variance is greater than the accuracy tolerance. So if this column is greater than this column, then that's a flag. That means that the count was not accurate once you factor in the tolerance level. So it's going to be, equals if this is greater than this, then we'll flag it as a 1, because 1 means it's not accurate. And you'll see why we're doing 1, otherwise 0. And then you get that. Right. And then the final thing we need to do is we just need to get the month, or the end of the month from the count date. And the way you get the end of the month is using EOMONTH, which stands for end of month. And then go to the date and then comma 0. If you do a 0, it's going to give you the end of the month in that column. If you do a 1, it would give you the end of the following month. Let me show you. So a 0 is should give you January 31st. But if you add a 1, it's going to give you February 28th, right? But we want a 0. Okay, so that's how you add those 3 columns. I'm going to delete them because they're the exact same here. But now we can get started. So step 1 is we need to get a unique list of the dates. And the way we get a unique list is equals unique here, and then right here, you'll see the mouse change to a down arrow. Like, I'll show you. See how it changes to a down arrow? Not where the column is highlighted, but where it's a down arrow, because this is at a table, right? So that's what we want. And so we have that. I'll call this month. We need to format this as a date. Okay, then I'll just center everything. Okay, so the next thing we want is we want the locations across the top. Right, because like here things like the part category, and you can do it on the part category, you can do it on the system type, you can do it on the supplier, but because it's inventory count, it's better to hold a location accountable, because it's not the supplier's fault necessarily. you know, that your system versus your physical counts there's a delta. So to get a unique list of the locations, it's going to be unique, and then going to use the table name, and then it's going to be location. And so we got that. But now let's put it in alphabetical order. So we want main warehouse, north branch, then south branch. So we're just going to sort here, which is good. And then finally, we want to put these three across the row and not have it down in a column. So that's going to be the transpose function. And then copy and then paste as values. Okay, so let's walk through the math here. How do we get the accuracy? So if in this column here, a 0 means it's accurate and a 1 means it was inaccurate, then we need to, on the numerator, we need the count or the sum. The count of ones is the same as the sum of ones, right? Like the count of 3 ones is 3, but the sum of 3 ones is also 3. And so we need the count on the numerator. And then on the denominator, to get the ratio, the percentage, we need the total rows essentially. And so the way we do that is you can use two different functions. You can use the COUNTIFS function, so count the number of rows that have a 1, or you could do the SUMIFS function, sum the column, and then the ones will be, will sum. But I'm just going to use the count. So COUNTIFS, and then we want accuracy, or accurate, here, comma 1, because we want ones, and then we want, again, the table, inventory accuracy, and then the next criteria is going to be the month, the one that we calculated using the EOMONTH function, and it's going to be right here, cell B3, and then the final thing that we want is going to be the location, and we want that to be here. So in other words, for the main warehouse in January, there were 8 items that had an inaccurate count, and now we want this here divided by, and we're just going to remove this, because if we remove this, the first argument of counting the number of rows, then what we're going to do is just count the number of times main warehouse January 31st was in the data set. And you can see 4%. So this is 4% inaccurate. So we need to do 1 minus this to get the accuracy percentage, right? So it's 96% accurate. Okay, so now we want to just drag this over and drag this down, but we can't. And the reason is because the cells aren't locked. And what I mean is this is what's called relative referencing. So what you'll notice is B3 right here, which is the month. That's sort of a bad example because it goes down, which is exactly what we want. But right here, C2, which is the location, goes down now, right? Goes down to C3. And we don't want that, right? We want it to stay here as we drag it down. And then as we drag it over, we do want this to change. But here, we don't want it to be 96.1. And then also here, you can sort of see the blue background, but the month is changing. Okay, so the way we do that is we have to lock the columns. So anywhere you see, and the rows, so anywhere you see the month, put a $sign before the letter, before the column, right? Its columns are letters, column B, column C. You wouldn't say row 2, or you wouldn't say column 2 or row B. You would say column B, row 2. And then anywhere you see the row, the red here, you want to put a $sign in the middle before the row number after the column. Like that, and then like that. And that's good. So now we still can't drag it because the columns are going to change for the table. Like you can see inventory accurate goes to month. We don't want that. But the way around that is just copy and then paste. And then now you have everything you need. So now what we want is an overall for each one. So this will be overall by month. This will be overall by location. Just in the data set. This is 1 year of data. So in the data set, it's going to be what was the overall accuracy for the main warehouse. And all we have to do this is copy this, paste it, and then strip out anywhere there's the month because we don't care about the month right now, right? We just want at the warehouse level. So you can take this out. And then over here, the same thing, take out B3 and make sure to delete that to comma. And we're good here. Again, make sure to copy and paste. Don't drag it, but copy and paste. And then for overall, we have to do pretty much the same thing, just instead of stripping out the month, we strip out the location. So anywhere you see the location here, take that out. And then here, take this out. And then it's a percentage, and then just copy. With this one, you can actually double click down, because if you move it over, you're going to change columns in the table, but if you go down, you're not going to change the column. Okay, so finally, what we want is we want a target percentage. Let's say 96%. And so we want to highlight anything here that is not, that is below 96%. So highlight the range. You can highlight here, hold down Control, and then drag, highlight that as well. Go to Home, Conditional Formatting, highlight cells less than 96. And so you can see this is now dynamic. And so, yeah, so the final thing I want to show you how to do is what you might want is you might want something like a target, a benchmark, or threshold, because if you're sharing this with somebody, they might not know it's a changing cell. But what you'll notice is that if I do that, everything breaks, because this is now being stored as text. So we don't want that. We want 95%, but we want it to show text. We want it to show the text, but still be, stored as a number. So press Control-1 to get the Format Cell dialog box. Go to Custom, and then here, do the percent, and then quotations, target, space, quotations. And you can change this threshold, benchmark, whatever you want. And now you can see you have a target changing cell that has the word target in it, but doesn't break everything. But anyways, that's all I got for this one. So if you want the file, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email, questions@databoards.io. Just let me know. Hey, can you shoot me the inventory accuracy data set for the inventory section? And then if you need some help structuring your data in this format, or even getting the insights from your data, then there's a link to my calendar, or you can just shoot me an email. But if not, then I'll see you in future videos, because I got nothing else to show you on this one.